So many people are feeling the great exhaustion, and it's not just a normal tiredness that goes away with maybe a day off or a day of rest. It's an exhaustion that's going deep to the bones. And in this day and age, it's perfectly understandable why. Being plugged in 24/7 is not how humans were ever meant to live. We're so overstimulated by being constantly, chronically online, constantly getting bombarded with information. Throughout the whole waking window, what is the first thing people do? They start scrolling on their phone, checking their various social media, maybe checking the news, and depending on what comes up, it can start their day off well or it can start their day off terribly, and it's usually the latter. Going online at all nowadays usually comprises of completely unrelated things just popping up like crazy. So your mind gets absolutely frazzled day in, day out, and you can't actually focus on anything. It's so draining trying to even take in any information, to the point where you end up taking in none at all, but are left just feeling terrible. Add that on to the media that we suffer through, especially in the UK. We weren't ever meant to take on the entire world's problems. We had enough to deal with on our own, and now going to look at news is just guaranteed to make you feel so depressed. And then they bring it in as a 24-hour cycle, and before you know it, you're just bombarded with a never-ending stream of negativity, which also teams with a feeling of helplessness, because there's no way you can possibly do something about every bad thing in the world. Then you have to drag yourself into work where you're chronically underpaid for a job that has ever-growing expectations and tasks. Tasks enough for about 5 people's jobs sometimes. If you're in the corporate world, it's a million times worse. And then you're dealing with people who just suck your energy as well, playing the corporate games and playing all the amateur dramatics that are rife nowadays in a lot of workplaces. If the country's politics weren't enough to deal with, you then have the work politics. And because people's lives have became their work a lot of the time now, work becomes artificially inflated in its importance. So even little things in work become so significant. So the everyday stressors, little things that go wrong, the people maybe having some dispute becomes a huge crisis. In the corporate world especially, overtime has become the norm. It's an unspoken rule that it's just expected of you, and it's usually underpaid. They say, oh, it's in your salary, that's just part of it, that's part of your job. But now it's constant overtime, to the point where everything else in your life gets eaten up by work, just constant work. Compound that with the time getting ready for work, getting to and from work. This comes with its own stressors of dealing with public transport, traffic. So after an exhausting day, you're left with a fraction of time to then do any sort of basic healthcare, like get some dinner. And then what have you got after that? You're completely depleted, to the point where you have nothing left to give. People's social lives are just put completely on the back burner now, or uploaded online, because there's just no time left for anything else in the way that we work nowadays. How after another day of trying to get through work and working an insane number of hours compared to what a human being should be, how are you possibly going to have the energy, time, motivation to go and spend time with loved ones, family, friends? And even if you do have that time or energy, it's not guaranteed that they will, because everybody's running in the same hamster wheel. Something that really doesn't get recognised enough is that being so suppressed in your speech, for example, in the UK, is causing people such an overwhelming frustration and anxiety, because you have to live a lie. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. You can't be genuine anymore. People can't have genuine conversations in fear of backlash, in fear of saying the wrong thing. Combine that with the absolute state of politics in the UK. I don't think I need to say much more. How could you not be frustrated and just full of this simmering anger for how the UK people are being treated? When it comes time to going and doing your errands, you go to the shops and just see that week on week, seemingly, the costs have just gone up. You go, wait a minute, that was about 20p less last week. And suddenly it's 20p more, another 20p more. And before you know it, your money's getting just completely eaten up by all these inflating costs. And yet salaries, wages are just staying the same, or maybe going in line with inflation, which I think is a complete lie. I don't even believe the inflation we're told is the true number. Trying to even better yourself as well is full of red tape. Trying to start a business in the UK, for example, there's so much bureaucracy and red tape to get through, so many rules and regulations, and so many costs as well that sometimes you just go, it's not even worth it. You're also punished for doing well in the UK. Once you start earning over a certain amount, you can say goodbye to at least half of the amount you make above that threshold. So what's the point in even trying to get to that stage? Because then you're just working half of your time for the government that isn't even serving you, or it isn't in line with your views. When it comes to the weekend for your you time, you're either too tired to do anything because you're so depleted, or you go out and you're just rushing about like everybody else trying to fit God knows how many days worth of activities into 2 little days. You go to the shops, for example, and people are just in terrible moods. They're absolutely frazzled by the end of the week. It's just not enjoyable. Or you try and go to some events or go for some days out and just cringe at how much they'll cost when you add up how much even traveling to places costs. Getting something to eat there, getting the entry tickets, it's not even affordable anymore. You may take a trip into town, but that even makes your life worse because it's nothing but closing down shops on the high street, an absolute unrecognisable place that still looks the same, but you just don't feel the same in at all. A lot of beautiful buildings have been torn down and replaced with just dystopian nightmare grey boxes or these modern monstrosities. Even the architecture feels like it's there to just drag you down. And it's noticeable when you go to more beautiful areas, you automatically feel better. You try and seek any sort of human connection and it's just people looking at their phones. You know, just people walking around, blundering around, just glued to these things, or you say hello to somebody and you don't even get a reply, or they just look at you like you're crazy. People also aren't eating as well as they should be. They are maybe living off takeaways or quick food because they've just not got any time left. Quick and easy, as long as I've got something in my stomach, that's it. But this is the main cause of a lot of health problems, how people feel overall. It also adds to the mental health as well. And all of these factors are pretty much a daily occurrence. It's no wonder that people are just constantly going through a cycle of burnout, recover, and it never ends. This modern life that has been set up is just set up to basically destroy you or keep you completely down. How can you ever rise above that when you're trying to just get through each day? I just don't think it's normal for humans to be going at this pace. And I mean, it can't be, because we've never seen so many mental health issues, so much exhaustion, so many health issues, families being so polarized, so torn apart. We've never seen this level of damage done to a society, and yet it just continues on, seemingly with no end. In fact, I think people are so exhausted by the end of it that they don't even have the energy to question it. Thanks for watching.